This is the story of convicted murderer and rapist Brian Nicholson, who carried out the most unimaginable act in a court of law: murder. Due to the entire drama surrounding his conduct, one of the victims, Ashley Smith, wrote a best-selling novel, Unlikely Angel, and a thriller called The Captive was made in 2015. Let's see what actually happened in this chaotic and eventful case.
Disclaimer.
Brian Nicholson, born on December 10, 1971, rose to fame on March 11, 2005, when he was exposed for his horrible actions. He was on trial for rape when he escaped from custody and started killing people. Word of this horrifying incident quickly spread, sparking a large manhunt throughout Metro Atlanta. After being captured 26 hours later, the prosecution accused Nichols of committing 54 crimes during his escape. November 7, 2008, he was convicted on all counts.
Those crimes were committed on March 11, 2005, at the Fulton County Superior Courthouse. And the evidence will show that as he sat at that table with his lawyer, there was a plan devised by a conniving, cold-blooded, remorseless, evil, an extremely dangerous mind.
Nicholson had a troubled past when he was arrested and tried for multiple misconducts, such as terrorist threats, harassing people, simple assault, and disorderly conduct. However, after entering guilty pleas to most of them, the charges were dropped and he walked away a free man. After that, Nicholson began to live a rather comfortable life. He made six figures and frequently attended church. But in 2004, everything collapsed. After splitting up with Sonia Meredith, his ex-girlfriend, Nichols discovered that she was seeing a minister at their church named Chris Rowell. After confronting the minister twice in August, Nichols threatened to take his own life. His ex-girlfriend then sent an email to his mother stating that things between Brian and her were getting out of control. On August 19th, Nichols returned to her apartment where, according to her testimony, he forced his way inside, bound her and duct tape and raped her at gunpoint. Nichols was then taken into custody. On February 21st, 2005, his first trial in front of Judge Barnes got underway. He was accused of possessing a handgun, burglary, aggravated sodomy, rape, and aggravated assault with the purpose to rape. Nichols' declaration that "I'm not going to go lying down" had been adding to the tension in the courtroom. Friends and family of Nichols warned the district attorney's office multiple times that he might try to flee. The county did not take the situation seriously in spite of these warnings. Paul Howard, the district attorney for Fulton County, even described Nichols' outbursts as completely typical and just the usual talk of a jailhouse. However, while Nicholson was being escorted from the courthouse to his jail cell 2 days prior to the killing spree, deputies found something in his shoes. They discovered two metal shanks, which were likely made from door hinges and are typical weapons used in the jailhouses. In addition to being aggressive during the trials, Nicholson made fun of the prosecution. After noticing the behavior, Judge Barnes convened a meeting with the attorneys to talk about implementing more security measures prior to Nichols' Friday hearing. Nichols was taken by a sheriff's officer named Cynthia Hall from a basement detention room to an 8th floor holding cell in the Fulton County Justice Tower. Hall argued that she could handle Nichols on her own, despite requests for her to bring along another deputy to accompany her upstairs to the holding cell. This would be a grave error, since despite the fact that Nichols had been found the day before with door hinges concealed in his shoes, Hall did not force him to wear leg shackles. Nichols viciously attacked Deputy Hall in the holding cell, overpowered her, and seized her gun belt, which included her radio and her gun and magazines. Deputy Hall suffered severe injuries from this assault, including facial fractures, a deep laceration on her forehead, and brain damage. Despite being in a critical situation, she managed to survive. After locking her in the cell, he proceeded to Judge Roland W. Barnes' private chambers, where he found and held other individuals at gunpoint. He insisted on knowing Judge Barnes' whereabouts, and when Court Bailiff Sergeant Grantley White entered the room, he also saw Nichols armed. He attempted but failed to disarm him. Sergeant White was subsequently compelled compelled to bind the 3 other individuals in the room after Nichols had disarmed him. But before being shackled in the restroom himself, Sergeant White managed to press an emergency button, alerting court security. Nichols answered dispatch on Sergeant White's radio in an effort to calm down the situation, but other deputies were suspicious because they didn't know his voice. After exiting the chambers, Brian Nichols went through a door behind the bench to Courtroom 8F, where he saw Judge Barnes presiding over motions in a civil trial. Without the judge even realizing he was there, Nichols shot him in the back of the head at close range. When Nichols discovered the associate district attorneys he was looking for weren't in the courtroom, he instead shot court reporter Julie Bordeaux in the head. Luckily, Sergeant White, who was forced to enter the restroom, managed to get on his radio and send out the initial signal, informing the responding officers about the gunfire and providing a description of Nichols. Then, in a side room where witnesses were detained until trial, Nichols looked for his rape victim. However, she was not there. Following his departure from the courthouse, he dashed into an emergency stairwell where Sergeant Hoyt Teasley, who had just arrived at work and had been responding to the alarm, noticed him. Sergeant Teasley followed Nichols out of the old courthouse and into Martin Luther King Drive, taking him down 7 flights of stairs before he could even put on his bulletproof vest or grab a radio. When Nichols came out of the building, he set off a door alarm and opened fire, scattering people over the busy street. Before the deputy could even pull out his revolver, Nichols fired 2 shots at Sergeant Teasley as he was leaving the building. Nichols ran away as Sergeant Teasley collapsed to the ground. Regretfully, Barnes and Bordeaux passed away right after, while Sergeant Teasley was declared dead at Grady Memorial Hospital after suffering an abdominal bullet wound. He then went on to carjack at least 5 cars there in order to get away. The search for Nichols grew as a result of the vigorous search, which led to his appearance on America's Most Wanted that evening. This search was among the largest and most thorough in Atlanta's history. With hundreds of police and cars and helicopters circling the region in pursuit of the culprit, the whole city of Atlanta was effectively placed under lockdown. Governor of Georgia, Sonny Perdue, declared a reward of around $65,000 for information that results in Nichols' apprehension. Major intersections in Midtown and downtown were blocked off by roadblocks, and over 100 state troopers and officers from other agencies, including the FBI, were helping with the search. Law enforcement threw a net outside the city, and even police officers who weren't on duty pitched in. It was revealed by Atlanta Police Chief Richard Pennington that Nichols was thought to have boarded a MARTA train that went north. Michael Taylor, a witness who claimed to have been on the train that morning with Nichols, was eventually found by the police. When Nichols boarded a MARTA train at the 5 Points station immediately after the gunshots, she was the only person there. According to Taylor, Nichols was sweating a lot, had no shirt on, and an ill-fitting jacket. Since Taylor had not watched any news coverage that morning, she was unable to recognize Nichols. Later, surveillance footage was found that captured Nichols passing through the station at 9:57 in the morning. In the evening of March 11, 2005, Brian Nichols killed Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent David G. Wilhelm at his neighboring home after attacking Emmett and her boyfriend Warren at the Summit at Lenox Apartments in Buckhead, Atlanta. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent David G. Wilhelm's body was found at his residence at 962 Cantor Road the next morning on March 12th. His pockets were found to be empty, and some loose change was discovered on the ground, leading to reports that he had been robbed. In addition, his blue Chevrolet pickup truck, rifle, and wallet were taken. Following a protracted pursuit, Nichols and the person he abducted were seen at the Bridgewater Apartments in Duluth, Georgia, which is 27 miles north of Atlanta. With a gun aimed at Ashley Smith's head, he held her hostage for several hours, promising not to murder her if she followed his instructions. After a while, Nichols let the woman go and told her to follow him in her car so he could abandon the stolen pickup truck. She obeyed and took Nichols back to the apartment. At this time, he made her an offer to pay to see her kid.
He handed me some money that he had in his pocket, and then I just left. I remember walking out the door, my knees were still shaking as I got to the car, and I thought, this is too good to be true. Surely he's gonna come out and shoot me. But I got in the car and made it around the corner, and immediately breathed a sigh of relief.
When they got there, Nichols quietly turned himself in to the police after recognizing the SWAT squad that had been set out in response to the woman's 911 call at about 9:50 a.m. Nichols eventually turned himself into the Gwinnett Police SWAT team without incident after 26 hours. Inside the apartment, law enforcement investigators found Agent Wilhelm's wallet and the stolen guns. In a nearby industrial complex, Wilhelm's Chevrolet pickup was discovered approximately 2 miles away from the residence. What caused Nichols to release the woman and submit quietly is unknown, especially in light of his aggressive actions throughout the preceding 26 hours. Still, the woman's choice to dial 911 most certainly put an end to a string of unlucky and deadly incidents. Although Nichols' nonviolent surrender surprised even Atlanta Police Chief Richard Pennington, authorities were happy that the experience had ended without violence. According to Smith's book, Unlikely Angel, the untold story of the Atlanta hostage hero, she was addicted to methamphetamine at the time of the hostage crisis. Instead of using drugs with Nichols, she decided to persuade him to turn himself in by sharing her beliefs and life experiences. She also says in the book that she demonstrated to Nichols the psychological and physical effects of drug use by taking off her tank top and exposing a 5-inch scar on her torso from a drug-induced psychotic vehicle crash. In the end, Smith was able to persuade Nichols to allow her to go visit her daughter. After that, she made the 911 call, which resulted in Nichols' compliant police surrender. Smith was awarded $70,000 in incentive money in total from multiple sources for her courageous actions. $2,500 had already been given to her by the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police. Ashley received this reward money as a thank you for her bravery and fast thinking. After going on a criminal rampage and being apprehended, Brian Nichols made a startling confession outlining his intentions. After being initially arrested on federal firearm charges, Nichols gave a long-taped confession to the police in which he admitted to a number of violent crimes. He explained that he was angry about his cell environment and an upcoming trial, and that he was seeking retribution against what he saw as an unfair legal system. Crucial evidence in his prosecution came from his confession, which included the attempted car theft and hostage taking, as well as the murders of a judge, court reporter, sheriff's sergeant, and others. Throughout his trial, Nichols' defense team argued a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, presenting evidence of his deteriorating mental state and troubled upbringing. Testimonies from witnesses, including his former girlfriend and mental health experts, portrayed Nichols as a man grappling with delusional beliefs and traumatic experiences from childhood. Despite these arguments, Nichols was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to consecutive life terms without parole, a decision that resonated deeply with the families of the victims, who expressed relief that justice had been served, albeit amid enduring grief and loss. The trial and its aftermath left a lasting impact on Georgia's legal system and broader community, serving as a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked violence and the necessity for robust security measures to prevent future tragedies. If you want to see more questionable cops and insane arrests, click the next video on screen.